Today on our 2021 Ford F250, we're going to be taking a look at the buyer's products over the cab ladder rack with headache rack. One thing that sets this ladder rack apart from most of the others is the option that we can add a headache rack. So if you're kind of like me and you just sit there and you kind of just throw stuff in the bed of your truck, if your truck's just a work truck, this is going to be super useful, so you don't really have to worry about maybe hitting the back glass. Sometimes I think I'm not as strong as I actually am, I guess, and I start throwing stuff in there, and I have actually hit the back of my glass. Didn't shatter it, but if this was in place, I wouldn't have to look at that scratch in the back. So I really like this, and that's something that you really don't get with a lot of different options. This ladder rack is going to be made of a steel construction, and it does have a powder coated finish. So if you leave it on your truck, which I would because it looks pretty cool, it's not going to really rust away over time. The steel construction is going to give us about 1,000 pounds of capacity, so it's going to be great for some of the lighter stuff, of course, but some of the heavier loads, whether you're carrying pipe, whether you're carrying a bunch of lumber and stuff, it's going to be able to handle a decent amount of weight. This does come with a cantilever, and I like this one compared to some of the other ones like the Thule, just because it's one big bar that goes all the way across. And let's just see how far it goes. It's definitely a lot farther over the cab than some of the other ones that you have options of on our website. So it sticks out about 5 foot from this back bar, which is pretty much at your back glass. So you're not gonna see the cantilever whenever you're driving, but maybe if some of those longer loads kind of exceed a couple inches past that bar, you might start to see it. But this is a large area for a lot of large loads. So from the bed rail to the center of this bar, it's going to be about 29 inches. But when we're going all the way up to the very top, it's going to be about 34.5 inches. So you can take that and that'll give you an idea of how far it's going to be up above your cab and then how tall it's going to be. So maybe it will help you figure out if it's going to fit into your garage. We have a lot of options when it comes to tying stuff down. Well, one, this tube right here on top and the vertical uprights, these are going to be a diameter of 1 inch. So just your standard S hooks or J hooks are going to fit around there. I'm using the E-trailer strap kit just because it's the perfect set for what I really need. It comes with 4, and all of them are going to be able to kind of wrap around and find a good place for it. We do have this little bracket that I'm using for a tie down, but we have multiple different holes here. So if you have multiple different things you want to tie down, you can do that. And the cool thing about it, you can actually see it on the front over here, but every single upright, we're going to have this cool little tie right here because I always have excess on my straps. So that's what I'm using those for right there. Just tie it down just to give me a little bit more peace of mind, just knowing that this isn't going to be coming loose and flapping around. One thing I noticed is we do have a lot of surface area that's going to protect the back glass, but you can still see pretty good whenever you're backing up or whatever, maybe just checking on your cargo. Regardless of it, I have seen other headache racks that really do block the back. If you do have a third brake light camera, it's probably not going to be the best for it, but you're still going to be able to see through with all these different holes. As you can see, it's not really going to completely block the light. You're still legal because we do have to have this third tail light up top. But what I meant by that is if you do have a backup camera, you're not going to have full visibility compared to if you didn't have this on. Just to give you an idea of how big this thing really is, this is a 12-foot ladder. We have a little bit of excess on that side and a tad bit of excess on the very front. But we have 4 different bars, one in the back, one right here, and then one in the very front to be able to tie everything down and get a lot of surface area on whatever you may be hauling. Another unique feature of this ladder rack, we could take these pins out on each side and actually remove this bar for some of the odd size loads, whether they're longer, shorter, or you just don't need this bar in the way. This way we can take this out. There's a lot of different reasons why we would want to remove this, but it's just super nice that you can take it out so you can walk in here and maybe put some stuff up here or whatever the situation may be. This is a pretty unique feature to ladder racks in general, and with the buyers, you get that option. So this is a lot bigger than the Thule option, even if you get the one with the cantilever. I mean, there are some different benefits that you can get with the Thule option. They're gonna have some T-slots up top for accessories. they're gonna have one that actually has a height adjustment, but you can't really use that with the cancel lever. In my opinion, people like Thule, but this thing is extremely solid. Like, it really doesn't move a whole lot. It looks really rugged, and I like the round tube size. And all in all, I think that this is more for, it has a ruggeder look and more for the worker people out there. I think the Thule option's mainly for some of the lighter stuff and also maybe more of the sports and rec type. If I had this truck, this is the ladder rack that I would put up on here. So there are a lot of parts to this kit. So what I suggest is kind of taking everything out of the box. We're gonna have a lot of duplicate brackets and such. So I put one on one side and one on the other. And then we are gonna have 4 unique brackets down low, right here. And this big round one is actually the one we're gonna start with, along with these 2 brackets over here. But first, let's take a look at the hardware. Also, just lay all that stuff out. There's a lot of hardware. There's a lot of big bolts, a lot of smaller carriage bolts, some medium-sized bolts, and then some odds and ends stuff. And then, of course, we just have the J-hooks to secure it down. So this just gives me peace of mind, just knowing I have everything I need. So just lay it all out. It's gonna make the install a lot easier. So let's start with the big rounded bracket right here. And there's gonna be 2 unique bolts. And these are gonna be the only 2. There's the skinnier carriage bolts. This is what we're gonna be using. So what we're gonna do is take this side right here. We're gonna slide it in to this little slot. And then we'll take this nut and washer off like that. I'm gonna slide this through. Get it in there. And we want that to fall into that little slot. So once we get that carriage bolt rotated, it'll go all the way through, and we'll have room to put a washer and then our nylon lock nut on the bottom. I'm not going to tighten these up with the tool yet, just get them nice and hand tight. And we can do that same exact thing for the other side. We're going to take another unique bracket like this, the one that has little holes here and this bracket welded to it, and that's going to go on first. And then we're going to have 2 sides. But what we want to make sure on this, we want to make sure that this little support bracket's going to be facing back, and then these little tie downs are going to be facing the outside. And this is going to go after we put the other one on. So get that all straight, and then we're going to slide this in like this. And this is where it gets a little different depending on what size bed you have. If you have a 6.5 foot bed like we do, we're gonna put this middle bar on the back side of this vertical support. When I mean back, so back here is gonna have the big curved part, and this is gonna be the part that goes over top of our cab. So if you have an 8 foot bed, we're gonna slide this all the way and put it on this side of this bracket, right? So we're just gonna do it on a 6.5 foot bed, because that's what we have. So we're only going to put them right about here, and then we're going to put these on as well. This will be kind of difficult to do it by yourself because you kind of have to lift it up. So you have an extra set of hands, that'd be great. If not, you'll be able to do it. It'll be a little bit more difficult though. So we can do that same thing for the other side. For this next section, this is the hardware we're going to use. I'm going to start with the smaller ones, and these are the big boys that come in the kit. So with the smaller ones, these are going to go on all of these different brackets. So what you want to do is just take the nut and the washer off. I'm going to feed the head of the washer and keep that on the outside. And then on the inside, put this on there. And then same with these 2 right here. We're going to use the smaller hardware. Goes down and through. You get a washer and a lock nut. Same with the third one. And I'm just getting all these just hand tight for now. And then we can grab the big boy bolts, and this is going to go in these 2 holes on the side here. So there's also holes on the back side of our bracket, so you really want to line these up like that. But this one's gonna be a little bit different because we have 2 washers on here. One washer is gonna go on one side, and then the other washer is gonna go on the other end of the bolt. Thread this on. Nice and hand tight. I like to get it down to the nylon so it doesn't like rattle off or anything. And then we do the same exact thing for the top runaway nut. And then we can repeat this same exact process on the other side. Next step, we're gonna take 2 different brackets like this, and we are gonna use all of these smaller carriage bolts. I already did the other side, so there's 3 left for 3 different holes. The way we wanna do this is like this, with the excess of the bracket facing down. And then what we can do is I like to put the pretty part on the outside, and then on the inside we're gonna have our washer and our lock nut. And we could do that same exact thing for this hole and the one down here. We're gonna leave it loose for now. We just go ahead and put all these in so the bracket stays up by itself. Now we're gonna take this side, and it's only gonna go in one way. Just go like this. Slide it in just like that. I actually have a couple chairs here propping it up so it's nice and aligned. Make sure it's pushed in all the way. And we wanna slide this guy down like this. We wanna make sure that this line on the inside is at the very center of our hole. And then you can take a 15/16 socket to tighten it up. The way I like to do it is tighten up one side. We want to tighten one side a little bit and then go to the other one, tighten it up a little bit, and just kind of go back and forth, and we are going to fully tighten these down. We're going to take our other upright. I already did it on the other side, and what you want to do here is we're going to slide this in. We want this bracket to be closer to the outside and facing towards the front. So we're going to slide this down, and then we're going to take our smaller pieces of hardware, just like the front. We're going to put these down through like that. And we're going to put the washer and the nut on the other side. And again, you can just loosely install these. And now we're going to take this bracket right here. Notice these 2 little metal pegs and this little tab. We got to find a home for them. So I found that the metal tab on our bracket is going to go on the outside like that. And then there is 3 different holes on this end cap over here. And we're going to put this just like that. And then what we want to do, there's going to be 2 shorter bolts like this. And we're going to put the lock washer on it like this. And this is going to go into that 3rd hole and the end cap on this bracket here. And it is threaded on the inside. Just kind of get that going. And we can tighten that up in a little bit. So we do want the square part of this bracket on the curve to be on the outside, so we just have that smooth side of our bolt towards the outside of the rack. And then we can go ahead and tighten this down. We can tighten these all the way down. I'm using a 17mm socket to do this. Now we're going to take another set of the big boy bolts, and we're going to go through this bracket on the outside, through that upright, and then we want a washer and a lock nut. And we're going to do the same thing for the hole on the bottom as well. We can tighten this up. Now for the feet, we want to get the right brackets. We want to make sure, since this is the back of the ladder rack, we want this to be facing in towards the bed, and also these little holes right here, that's gonna be what connects to the inside of the rails. So you wanna make sure that it's gonna be just like this. Kind of mimics what the bed rails kind of look like. So we're gonna slide this up into place. I'm gonna put our big bolts on the outside, like that. Washer on the other side by the head, another washer on this side by the nut. And for the front, we want to make sure that they are facing back, and of course the little edge is going to be facing in with the same exact hardware as before. Next, we want to take this bar, and what we're going to do is we're going to put it on the back half of the ladder rack. So right behind our little joining bracket that joins the front and the back, and then in front of our uprights right here. So what you do is you kind of put it in like this and you rotate it like that. And this is the last of our smaller bolts. And what we want to do, just want to put it through, and we're going to take the washer and the nut and put it on the inside. And then we can take this bar, which has the little 90 degrees, and it's going to fit into this little bracket that we put on here. So you put it down, and we have these little pins to hold it into place. So this is going to be a little intense. Grab some friends if you got them. I have 2 friends, so they're here to help me. So they're going to lift it up. I'm going to lift this up. We're going to put it into place as carefully as we can. So we got it up here. If you have more than 2 friends, grab them. It's pretty heavy and it's kind of difficult to get up here, but once it's in place, we're good. And one thing we need to do once it's up here and everything's adjusted is just put these little J-hooks in. The way that happens is you just put this in that little slot. Comes up like that. And then we'll take a washer, a lock washer, and then our nut. And then once we're done with the nut, once we have that all tightened down, I'm actually going to reuse these caps that were on there before. You can put them back on just so they won't rip anything. Pop those on just like that. And to get these brackets like angled right, so if you did completely tighten all this stuff down, it's going to be a little hard to kind of get the angle that you want, because you can notice this upright here has a lot of angle, and then the one over here is basically upright. So what we're going to do, I kind of over tightened some of these. I'm going to loosen them up, get them kind of completely symmetrical, and then tighten them all up. And any bolt at this point that isn't tight and you get it exactly where you want, we want to tighten up all the hardware. Now to install the headache rack, let's take a look at what we're working with. So we're going to have 2 holes down here. We're going to have a bolt go through both of those, and then up top we're going to have 2 bolts going through there, and it's the same exact thing up on the other side. So I'm going to show you on the driver's side. So pretty much those bottom little slots are going to be these 2 bolts, so we will have to remove these, and then those top bolts are going to be up here. We're going to have to remove those as well. So go ahead and remove them both on both sides. So we are adding the headache rack after we already assembled and put this thing on here, but if you do grab the kit, you can just put it on while you're assembling the whole entire thing and then put it all up at the same time. Either way is totally fine. It'll go and install the same exact way. It's gonna be best with a friend, so Brad's helped me out. And notice how we have these little tabs up at the top and the bottom. They're facing towards the cab right here. So you want to make sure and do that. And once it's in place, we can just replace our bolts and tighten them down. Once you get it all tightened down, that's pretty much it for the install. And that'll do it for a look at the Buyers Products over the cab ladder rack with headache rack on our 2021 Ford F250.